Welcome back, everyone. We are back in session. Our next item of business is 9A2, and that is the Middlesex County Loan Program. Josh, that's for you.
Thank you. Through the warden to council, as per the report, the county received an application under the county loan program on January 27th from the municipality of Southwest Middlesex for the project of the Glencoe Business and Industrial Park on Industrial Road. After initial review, county staff worked together with the municipal staff and adjusted the application to better align with the county loan program requirements, with the revised version being received on April 25th. The project will provide infrastructure including water, sanitary sewer, storm sewer systems, and a communal stormwater management facility servicing the 44.6 acres of industrialized area, which when completed will lead to the sale and utilization of the affected land, subsequently increasing the county's industrial property tax assessment base. As per loan program guidelines, county staff reviewed both the municipality's financials as well as the project itself to ensure the application meets the county loan requirements, which it did. The requested loan amount is for $687,500, which is 50% of the anticipated municipal portion of the project costs. The term of the loan would be for 15 years, with the project expected to commence this upcoming summer. And with that, there's a couple of recommendations on the report, and I'd be happy to address any questions council may have.
All right, thank you. Questions, comments from council? Councillor Clark, and then Councillor Mayhew.
No, I don't have a question. It's more a comment. I highly support this recommendation. I think we need to see more of this throughout Middlesex County. And I think this is great for Southwest Middlesex. It's also going to help the county in our overall assessment in the long term. So I'm really happy to see this.
All right, thank you. Councillor Mayhew.
Thank you, Warden Ropp. Josh, thank you for presenting that. Southwest Middlesex are very pleased to work with the county on this application. Industrial Road is the entranceway to Ontario plants. This will be a project that is destined to turn into a $200 million investment in Southwest Middlesex. And Industrial Road goes right past the lands that we are considering to be developed. There is an abundance of information rather, that I'm not at liberty to tell you at this point. But I can tell you that there has been agreements of purchase and sale on those lands that have been accepted. There are interests in those lands that we are currently receiving communications on and addressing. And Southwest Middlesex is in a good debt service ratio in terms of servicing this county loan is no problem at all. We're well within our debt guidelines. And in addition to that, we have been aggressively pursuing grants that are available out there. And I can't speak to those, but we hope, we will be in a position to handle the indebtedness without any trouble whatsoever. And we are extremely excited about the inquiries and the deals that we have currently made. Thank you.
Excellent, Councillor. Other questions, comments on this? Seeing none, we have a recommendation going up on the screen. Moved by Councillor Smybert, second by Councillor Clark. All in favor? Carried. Thank you. All right, our next item is the award of tender MC 2025-08, and that is the Middlesex County Governance and Administration Center. President.
Thank you, Mr. Warden. I appreciate this is a long report, but and I would just like to thank other members of senior staff who were very helpful in us putting together this report. But I think it's very important to have a fulsome outline of how we got to where we are today. A more comprehensive breakdown of the expected overall budget for the project at a high level. At this stage, we got to drill down as far as we possibly could. Cindy's going to provide some information about financing. And then we're going to talk a little bit about some of the questions we had about redesign and pivoting, just to illustrate some of the engineering and design principles that we undertook during the process in order to come to council with if you look comparatively in the marketplace, comparatively a very efficient building, both in terms of design and cost of construction. So in the background section of this report, we've included a number of reports that have come directly to council, whether for an explicit approval of a recommendation or provided as information with regards to reasonings why we decided to move forward with a new administration building. I should say this is post sale of the property at 399 and 50 King, and we were fortunate to have some information provided us today on that front. It generally aligns with a strategy that was disseminated several years ago, actually many years ago, from our CAO to help decentralize service delivery in the county. Those of you who've been around for a while may remember there was pre-COVID, of course, there was much more interaction with the public at this facility at 399 Rideout. And we've been fortunate through prudent investment in our facilities across our area to be able to provide many of those services either remotely in those facilities or virtually. And that's from decades of investment and training of staff and updates to many of our comprehensive library facilities. There's a number of items with regards to direction provided to staff, either formally or directly from administration with regards to moving forward with the design and tender of the project. And most of those are outlined in a number of the reports that are identified on the second page of the report. And one of the outstanding items that we'll address and come back to this council with further information is about the renewable energy potential on this site. Staff have not moved forward with that project. We felt it would be prudent to have the actual building approved and the tender, the design and tender awarded before we expended further county resources on looking at potentials for renewable energy at this stage. But that is quite ready to go. We have a proposal and we're ready to move forward with that in very short order. In the financial information section, I'll just go over the estimated budget, some of the items that are prescribed under the tender with Baraboo Construction that's been submitted for approval, some of the monies that have already been spent on this project, and some other anticipated costs that we have moving forward. I should note that on the bottom of the second page of the report, those two indicators, of course, the governance administration budget does not include financing. We're going to talk about that more as an additional cost to the actual project, depending which way council decides to go. And fortunately, that decision will have to be made today, but we're going to provide as much information as we can. And the star on some of the items on the chart on the project costs are actual numbers taken out of the tender from Baraboo Construction. So you can see on the chart on page 3, we were asked about site plan and tender design. Staff were directed to utilize Matter Architectural for sole sourcing the design and architectural work on this project. And as noted here, about $448,000 has been spent with Matter to get us to this stage. That includes design, site plan, preparation of tender documents, and we also have a quote from them that's included in this list to take us through to project completion of $204,000. We have staff, county staff currently working right now on removing the berm from the site. When the MLPS headquarters was constructed, there was a material that had some high levels of chlorides that would have made it difficult or expensive for us to remove and dispose of in the short term. But that material was placed in a pile. And over the years, that chloride content has dropped to the point where the material is usable. And that's being removed and redistributed around the county by our staff following the regulations around excess soils. We anticipate by the time we're done with that berm removal, that will cost us internally about $100,000. Of course, using county staff to do this work certainly presents a savings than having to lump that into the contract cost. The next 4 items are related directly to the contract, and those are numbers taken directly out of the Baraboo tender. That includes the building, the site works, the landscaping, and then allowances for things that we may or may not have a firm handle on at this point, but it's a spending allowance for things like cabling, things like signage, networking things. And we've worked diligently with county IT staff to try and hammer down those numbers as closely as we can. But of course, until we're actually pulling wire through the building, we won't know exactly where that number will end up. But there's an allowance in the contract for that. And I would say these are upset numbers. We anticipate these numbers would come in under those numbers, but we're certainly our understanding we want to see an upset budget for the project. As noted, we have a proposal from Matter to take us through the site inspection, contract and project administration of $204,000. We currently have a furniture allowance of $765,000. We have directed Matter and their sub-consultants to look at options with regards to more Canadian friendly supply of furniture for the building. So there may be a revision of that number. That's part of the reason why we've included a contingency in this allowance. The contingency is about 3% of the overall project costs. And we certainly feel, and anyways, the staff feel that this number would more than make up for any kind of surprises we might see on the site. It might be on a low end for a contingency, but because we're the owners of the property and we have experience working within this property for the construction of the MLPS headquarters, my recommendation as the county engineer is it's a reasonable contingency to carry on a project of this scope on a knowable site that we own. We also did a calculation on the non-recoverable part of the HST for this project of a value of about $255,668 for a total upset limit project cost of $14,782,270. And county staff, again, in consultation, we've had conversations with the potential contractor, with our consultants, and we're confident the project would come in at or below that total number as proposed in this document. Of course, as with anything, we are talking about a very long project of medium to high complexity. There's some volatility in the market. We've done our best to be able to avoid any of those challenges or negative impacts on our costs. We feel that we are able to provide, our contractors are able to provide this project on time and on budget. So we don't anticipate a significant variation. However, if there is one, it is the intent of senior staff moving forward with not only this project, but other projects that we're going to come forward with more fulsome information to council on a regular basis and have look for further approvals for variations to budgets on this and any other project moving forward. I'm going to skip over the funding strategy section. We'll come back to Cindy on this piece here, but we've essentially outlined in some significant detail 3 different potential funding strategies for the project. I will note at this point, however, that at this stage, it is premature for us to make a decision based on what funding strategy we would use. One of the recommendations, we will come back before council in the second quarter of 2026 in order to present a funding strategy with more accurate numbers with regards to borrowing costs. As we know, in a year, things can fluctuate greatly in the marketplace. So we wouldn't be able to tell you with any surety today what those numbers would be. So it would be more prudent for us to do that. We will fund the construction cost by borrowing from reserves to cover us off until such time as we're ready to move forward with a final approved direction with regards to funding of the project. With that, I'll move over to project review and my thanks to the team over at Matter Architectural Studio for outlining what we've done, what's changed, what's evolved, and what they were looking at with regards to trying to keep this project fiscally responsible, to make sure we weren't building something that was going to cost us more than we would normally expect to see in the marketplace. Talk about the numbers in a minute where we've actually come in at the end of the day, which is good news. But certainly a number of changes and evolutions of this building as we move forward. And some of them are discussed in these 3 paragraphs where we talk about looking at things like interior and exterior glazing, so the amount of glass that's in the building. We eliminated some non-essential programmatic elements. We initially had a big sweeping communication stair that was expensive to construct. We've eliminated that. We're not compromising on providing an entranceway and a lobby where we are able to present some of our the pride that we have in Middlesex County, but we've eliminated some of the more ornamental elements of a sweeping stair. Also helps us with some things with regards to site security. We've optimized layouts. We've looked at different mechanical, structural, electrical systems. We've looked at making sure we have a sustainable building here that's going to give us a long-term operational savings over many years. This was done collaboratively between staff and the building working group, which I say my many thanks to the members of council who participated in that building working group. As this project evolved, they did contribute time and their knowledge and expertise with regards to moving this project forward. But I would also say that it's important to recognize in the last paragraph provided by Matter that the project has evolved significantly since day one. We have added a basement. We added some modifications on the second floor office spaces. So some rejigging of the warden space, some rejigging of some of the other senior staff offices, some rejigging of some of the more common areas that are used on the second floor to be more efficient with regards to the space that's provided and usable by staff. We tried to make this building right-sized, but also sized such that we could expand our staff complement over the years if we did see growth in different functional areas, and also be able to redistribute staff around the county and other facilities as well as we continue to grow and evolve as an administration. So we've seen the project evolve and grow over time as the development went forward, which has added some costs to the structure, but it was important that we identified those operational shortfalls in our opinion, and the project scale and scope is appropriate for county administration on the site as designed today. We had a review of the marketplace with regards to cost comparison to this building to other buildings in the civic and administrative field, from very large to very small. Those averaged out between $900 and $1,100 per square foot all-in costs, depending on scope, site complexity, and design features. In comparison, this site is coming in around $865 per square foot. It doesn't represent that we're cutting corners here or making decisions with regards to this structure that compromise its use, its size, its scope as an administration building. But it certainly notes, as Matter illustrated in their contribution to this report, conscious design decisions made throughout the process to make sure we were doing making a building that was not only attractive, usable, and energy efficient, but was fiscally responsible to the citizens of Middlesex County. We would note we did have a conversation or request to talk about pivoting at this stage. We certainly would have to acknowledge that going for a retender or a redesign at this stage would certainly increase costs. Of course, if we're going to redesign, we have to pay for those redesign costs, but retendering this project at this point, especially considering the value that we received through Barabo and their tender, we certainly would not be recommending that at this point. And then, as we discussed earlier today, there are some potential pitfalls with us delaying this project. It's a very long project from start to completion, just because of lead times for specific mechanical, HVAC, electrical portions of this work, where we're looking at an 18-month completion window. The contract stipulates a occupancy date of November 1st of next year. And any delays to that potential occupancy date carry with them their own costs and challenges. I think what we'll do at this stage is we will jump back, and maybe I'll have Cindy go through the three options that we are considering right now for funding strategies for the project.
Thanks, Chris. Through the warden to councillors. So council, at the last meeting, you asked for a few options to finance the proposed new county administration building. In this report, we provided three options, which of course could be changed or adjusted based on council decisions, because you can well imagine we could do many more than three, but we tried to provide three that we thought would be appropriate. The county currently does have one debenture outstanding for Strathmere Lodge, and the final payment for that is in January of 2026. So the timing is very good in terms of taking on a new debenture, because we won't have one after that date. So the county's 2025 annual repayment limit, which is issued by the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, is approximately 12.27 million. This provides the county with capacity to assume new debt if necessary. So in other words, the annual repayment limit is the maximum amount the county may commit in an annual debt repayments. So if we were to look at option 1, which is full debenture, the total amount of the debenture would be the total project, which is that 14.82 million. The first chart with the heading debenture assessment shows the costs. We gave you a 4-year option, so you can do 10 years, you can do 15 years, you can 20, 30. There is many other ones you can do, but we picked those dates. The interest rates were provided from Infrastructure Ontario. So I did meet with our local representative last week to talk a little bit about the rates and the project. The last column shows the total payment amounts. So if we were just to look at the 20 years, which is consistent with what we did for our Strathmere Lodge, I also used, when I looked at the infrastructure calculator, I also applied the interest rates used from Infrastructure Ontario. And I also did the serial debenture, which is very similar to Strathmere. So you can do others, you can amortize, you can do serial. I just want to let you know that's the process that I used. So if we were doing the 20 years in the option 1, so your annual payment, which would start in 2027, because one is say it's 60 days if you're doing Infrastructure Ontario, it's 60 days after you actually have your debenture in place. So for us, that would take us into 2027. So the budget of 2027. And that levy impact would be 2.5%. If you want, I do have the other levy increases for the other ones, which was the 10, 15, 20, and 30 years. The next 2 options I want to point out involve the use of proceeds from the sale of the buildings of 399 Rideout Street and 50 King Street. And I throw in there the Strathmere lands as well. So the county sold 399 Rideout Street and 50 King Street in 2020 for the $30 million. The county has received $13 million and $17 million is the remaining amount owed. The county also sold the Strathmere lands in 2021 for $6 million. In January of 2021, County Council was presented with recommendations regarding these use of proceeds. At that time, it was recommended $6 million be allocated to the new administration building. And I want to point that out because that's why we use $6 million in our example. So if we look at the option 2, so this option uses partial proceeds from the sale of building and lands and also uses debentures. So it has a little bit of a chart, but it's a $6 million. To get to the total of the 14.78 million, the difference for debenture is that $8.78 million. Again, the chart's laid out the very same as the other one to make it simple to understand. So I've used the terms 10, 15, 20, and 30 years. And the last column again shows the total payments. It also in that chart shows you the interest that we'd be paying over the period of time as well. And then it also does show you, I showed you the annual payment. I just want to be clear that's a 2027. That's why I point out serial, because the interest amounts do change. Principal remains the same, but the serial changes over a period of time. The 2027 impact of the debenture on the levy for the 20-year term would be approximately 1.5% of the levy. And again, I remind you that it would be an impact in the 2027 budget. Theoretically, we'd be going in November, and I believe the date was November 2nd of 2026 when I was looking at the debenture using the loan calculator from Infrastructure Ontario. So if we flip over to the third option, so the third option would be using only the proceeds from the sale of buildings and lands to pay for the county administration building. So again, we sold the building for 30 million. We have received 13 million, but we do have that 17 million that is still remaining. And that is more than enough to cover the total cost of the building as presented. So there's no question, there's pros and cons with everything. I do want to point out, I also didn't bring into this equation reserve funds. As you know, we do have some reserve funds. We have some larger balances in the county loan program. We just went through that presentation where we talked about the county loan program. I want to point out again, very exciting. We've had North Middlesex come forward this year. We've had Thames Centre come forward this year. And now we've had Southwest Middlesex come forward this year. So it looks like the new county loan program is really going to be successful. So that's why I didn't refer to that. However, if county wanted, they could look at that reserves. The other big reserve, of course, is tax rate stabilization. So just quickly, some of the pros and cons. Obviously, the option for the full debenture allows the county to keep those proceeds from sale for other opportunities that county may want to do. So it gives you a lot more flexibility. Of course, it does increase the tax levy every year because that's probably the more expensive option because you do have the debentures and you are paying that amount. The partial use of proceeds does reduce the debt burden. But again, you do lose a little bit of that opportunity because you've applied the 6 million towards that and not using it for other opportunities. And lastly, if you use the full use of proceeds, clearly you are taking that totally out of the mix. And we're talking over $14 million. So those are opportunity costs or potential things that county might want to do in their term of office. And that kind of walks you through the highlights of the options. And Chris and I are open to conversations and questions, and obviously Dirk and others.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Grantham.
Just real quick one to Cindy, and I'm sorry, my laptop died, so I couldn't follow. Option 3, could you run that one by me again? Just sorry, I tried to read along.
That's okay. Option 3 is using money from the proceeds of the sale and building. So it's 100%
Of
using
this
that.
building, correct?
That's correct. Yes.
Just of this building?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And full proceeds. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
So no debenture at all, just using the proceeds. And as I talked about, there is 17 million. I know in the initial discussion in the presentation of recommendations, if we go back to January of 2021, there was some recommendations what to do with that. But obviously council is allowed to make what recommendations they want to for that amount of money.
Okay, thank you, Chris.
I will say the use of proceeds from the sale of 50 King and 399 Rideout is one of those reports that's going to come back to council for clarification and approval. It's on our list of things that senior staff recognize needs input from council. We'll be coming back to you with a fulsome report on that in the near future.
Just before I go back to you, I have a question. And probably to Cindy, when you do come back with a report on financing, and will you include what we would get on our money if we decided to go debenture, what that interest, what we'd be collecting, to help with that decision?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So any kind of financing decision. And when I come forward with the debenture, we'll talk about the rate that the debenture is, but we can also talk about what's in the market, what we currently would get for GIC bonds, that type of thing as well.
Perfect. Thank you. Councillor Grantham.
No, I'll hold my comment word until we get the report. It's probably more pertinent once we get.
Yeah,
the
I think
financing
right
report.
now it's the building and different. Other Councillor Clark.
Thank you. Through the warden, just a couple of questions. I noticed in your notes, you referenced that we allocated 460,000 for design and site plan, and of that, 448 was paid to Matter. So are we done paying them, or they're not going to require any additional funds?
Yeah, through the warden, that part of the 460,000 was paid to Matter. They put in a proposal for us, which is part of this, for the 204,000 to do the contract administration and project management. So
Over
basically
and
an
above.
inspection. Yes, that's correct. And the amount that's not directly accountable to Matter is some of it's internal to staff, some of it is permit fees. Some of it is some of the work that we've done with regards to satisfying other agencies like the City of London, Conservation Authority. We did a lot of work with them with regards to helping them disseminate the limits of the floodplain in the regulated area. So there's some internal costs that we took on with regards to GIS and some surveying work we did to help with the site plan approval.
Okay, so as a follow-up, so we've spent 460, so the 22,000 speaks to that? Or has Matter paid for permitting and things of that nature, and then we reimburse them?
All that, anything that flowed through matter, like permitting or anything else other, would have been in that 448,000. So the remaining amount there is either staff time, we had planning staff working on it, GIS staff, engineering staff. There's some other fees that were paid outside of matter with regards to dealing with like the site plan application fee, of course, to the city of London. That would all come out of that remaining amount that's tabulated that 460. You remember, Dirk? We'd have to get back.
Okay. No, I guess, sorry, I didn't maybe forward this question sooner, because I was having trouble finding the document, but I found a document dated July 18th, 2023, submitted to council from yourself and Bill Rayburn, which basically, and financial impact at the end, basically says for architectural design services for site plan approval, it's estimated to be 28,500 plus HST. So that's why I'm asking. That's a huge difference in numbers. So I'm just trying to get a handle on how we went from there to here.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Clark through the ward, and I apologize for that. So the direction I was given to staff was to do sole source with Matter Architectural Inc. And we went through that process with them. It didn't come back for formal approval. The first 28,500 was the initial design that we did to get us to a site plan. The remainder is all the detailed design work paid through Matter and their sub-consultants. So we had mechanical, civil, other subs that had to come on board in order to get us a fully designed and functional building. So those are fees paid either directly to Matter or through Matter to the sub-consultants to get us to the point where we could construct the building. So the first amount was approved directly through council for that first quote through Matter. Staff was told to continue moving forward with Matter for the remainder of the design. It did not come back to county council for explicit approval of other portions of the cost. That's the discrepancy.
Okay.
All right, other questions? Councillor DeVito.
Thank you. I just, from the exchange and comments, I think the issue isn't whether or not certain things, the point is that there was no way of reconciling what that number was comprised of. And to the extent that fees from Matter are one thing and permits and all those other things that services they deliver might have been split out, I think is what you're, yeah, like it's the clarity
Yes,
isn't
thank
there.
you.
It's
I
sort of
guess
rolled
just
up.
for, so we understand, because I guess if we are going to move ahead, I would probably request that we have a tighter controls with respect to monitoring, reporting of expenses.
Okay, thank you. Other questions? No other questions? Wow. Councillor Mayhew.
Thank you, Warden Rupp. The recommendation is on page 234. I'd be pleased to move that.
We can get that up on the, get the recommendation up on the wall.
Mr. Warden, while we're getting that up, the application fee to the city for the site plan was just under $3,000.
So you're moving that recommendation?
I am.
Moved by Councillor Mayhew and the seconder? Councillor Brennan. Any other discussion on that? Seeing none, in favor? Opposed? One opposed? Okay, that is carried. Our next item of business is the bylaws.
We have number 7334, a bylaw to authorize an agreement with the corporation of the municipality of Southwest Middlesex through the Middlesex County Loan Program. And number 7335, a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the May 13th, 2025 meeting of council.
First and second, Councillor Smyber, Councillor McMillan, all in favor? Carried. And third and final, Councillor DeVito, Councillor Grantham, all in favor? Carried. Do you see the announcements in front of you? Just before I call for adjourn, I want to thank council. We had a lot of business today. We did a lot of good stuff today. So I'll move to adjourn. Councillor Smyber smiling too much. Councillor Burkhart Jessen, all in favor?